What happens when Hollywood royalty comes face to face with literal royalty on daytime television, when two worlds collide under the brightest lights imaginable, where every smile, every word, every crack in composure is broadcast to millions? It took just 42 seconds for one guest to shatter her reputation, derail a major appearance, and ultimately get herself banned from television permanently. This is the story of how Meghan Markle turned what should have been a warm, uplifting interview into the most infamous meltdown in talk show history. Drew Barrymore had been thrilled for weeks leading up to this moment. Her producers worked around the clock to secure what they believed would be a landmark sit-down with the Duchess of Sussex. Drew's show had a reputation: soft lighting, cozy staging, and heartfelt conversations that felt less like interviews and more like personal heart-to-hearts. It was the kind of room where celebrities let their guard down. As the cameras rolled that Tuesday morning, Drew greeted her audience with her signature sunshine-bright grin. "Good morning, everyone," she beamed. "I am so excited about today's show because we have someone very, very special with us. She's an actress, a humanitarian, a mother, and a duchess. Please welcome Meghan Markle." Thunderous applause. Meghan stepped out in an elegant cream blazer and matching trousers, hair tightly pulled back in a gleaming bun. She smiled, she waved, but her eyes told a different story. Drew noticed it instantly: the stiffness in her shoulders, the vigilance in her expression. Something was off. "Meghan, thank you so much for being here," Drew said warmly as they sat. "I have to say, you look absolutely stunning today." "Well, thank you, Drew," Meghan replied coolly. "Though I have to admit, I expected a bit more fanfare. The green room was sparse, and I didn't see any photographers outside to capture my arrival." Drew's smile froze for half a second. She'd interviewed hundreds of famous people. She knew a hostile energy when it walked in wearing couture. But she pressed on, determined to salvage the tone. "We like to keep things intimate here," Drew said gently. "A space for real conversations. And speaking of that, I'd love to jump into your new podcast and some of the impactful work you're doing." Meghan's expression hardened. She sat taller. "Actually, Drew, before we go there, I need to address something. I was told this would be a serious interview, not fluffy daytime TV chit-chat. I'm here to discuss important issues, not my wardrobe or my emotions." The room went silent. You could feel the tension wrap around the audience, like a vice. Inside the control booth, producers panicked in hushed whispers. Drew stayed composed, but her tone sharpened just enough to signal boundaries. "Of course, Meghan. We absolutely want to talk about your work. But our show is about seeing the whole person. Viewers want to connect with you as an individual." "Connect with me?" Meghan scoffed, voice rising. "Drew, I don't think you grasp who you're speaking to. I am not some Hollywood starlet desperate for relevance. I am a member of the British royal family. I've sat with world leaders, spoken at the UN, attended state dinners. This little chat show setup is frankly beneath me." A loud gasp rippled through the audience. Drew blinked, stunned. Not by Meghan's resume, but by the naked contempt. Yet she stayed gracious. "I respect your accomplishments, Meghan," Drew said steadily. "And that's why people are eager to hear from you. You have an incredible platform. Can you share some of the causes closest to your heart?" Meghan leaned back, arms crossed, her voice now dripping with condescension. "Well, if you'd done your homework, you'd already know. I've been fighting for women's rights since childhood. I've traveled the world. I've stood on global stages. Meanwhile, you've made rom-coms and feel-good TV." The hit landed. Drew's hand trembled as she reached for water, but she did not break. "Meghan," she replied calmly, "I've also dedicated many years to philanthropy, and I don't think either of us needs to diminish the other. We're here to have a conversation." Meghan rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. Donating to a few charities and attending galas isn't activism. I sacrificed everything for my convictions. I gave up my acting career. I left my entire life behind in America. Meghan snapped. I married into one of the most scrutinized families on earth. I endured constant harassment from the British press. I sacrificed everything. What have you ever sacrificed for your so-called causes? Drew felt her composure beginning to slip. The attacks were becoming more personal, more venomous, and she could see her producers behind the cameras, eyes wide, silently begging her to regain control. Still, she tried. "Meghan, I don't know why you're being so hostile," Drew said softly, her voice trembling. "I invited you here because I genuinely admire your work. I wanted this audience to get to know you. But it feels like you're carrying a lot of anger and—" That was the wrong trigger. Meghan's expression iced over. Her voice dropped to a chilling whisper. "Anger?" she repeated. "You think I'm angry, Drew? Let me explain anger. Anger is being silenced by an institution that pretends to protect you. Anger is watching the press destroy your character while your own family stays silent. Anger is being dragged onto shows like this and treated like some fame-hungry nobody, begging for attention." The studio froze. Even the camera operators stopped breathing. Drew blinked hard, holding back tears. She refused to break. Not on live television. "Meghan," she said carefully, "I think you may be projecting some of your pain onto me. I have only ever treated you with respect. I've defended you publicly. I don't understand why you're attacking me when I've only tried to give you space to share your voice." Without warning, Meghan shot to her feet. Her chair screeched across the floor, echoing through the silent studio like a gunshot. She loomed over Drew, shaking with fury, her fists clenched so tightly her knuckles blanched. "You want to know my message?" she shouted. "My message is that I don't have to sit here and be patronized by someone who has never experienced real adversity. You were born into Hollywood privilege. Spielberg was your godfather. What have you ever fought for in your life, Drew?" The audience stared, horrified, mesmerized, unsure whether this was a stunt or a breakdown unraveling in real time. Drew stayed seated, looking up at Meghan through dazed, wounded eyes. "I think you have some misconceptions about me," Drew whispered. "My childhood was painful. My parents divorced when I was 9. I battled addiction. I've spoken openly about my struggles. I've tried to take those hardships and use them to help others." Meghan let out a cold, humorless laugh. "Oh, please. Poor little Drew Barrymore with her movie star trauma. Do you have any idea what it's like to be the most hated woman in an entire country? To have your own family betray you? To carry a child while racists send death threats to your unborn baby?" The moment she invoked racism, the room shifted. The audience squirmed. Some averted their eyes. Producers frantically gestured from behind the cameras. "Cut to commercial. Keep rolling. Abort." Drew shook her head. "Stopping now would only inflame the narrative." "Meghan," Drew said gently, "I can't imagine how painful that was. Truly. But attacking me won't heal any of that. I've always supported you, publicly and privately." "Supported?" Meghan scoffed. "You call this support? Dragging me on your little morning show to giggle about motherhood and recipes. I'm trying to change the world, Drew. You're treating me like I'm promoting a rom-com." Something in Drew finally hardened. For the first time, her tone sharpened. "Meghan, I invited you to talk about whatever you wanted. I've asked about your causes again and again. You're the one who keeps lashing out at me and belittling my work and this platform." Meghan began pacing behind her chair like a cornered animal, her polished facade completely gone. "You don't get it," she hissed. "You live in this fantasy bubble where everyone adores you. But some of us live in the real world, where speaking our truth comes with consequences." Drew leaned forward. "What truth are you speaking right now?" she asked, voice steadying with resolve. "Because all I'm hearing is pain turned into cruelty, aimed at someone who invited you here as a friend." Meghan whirled around, eyes blazing. "You want the truth? Fine. The truth is, people like you make me sick. You pretend to care about serious issues, but underneath it all, you're just another privileged white woman who thinks a few months in rehab qualifies as struggle. The words detonated in the room. Gasps rippled through the audience. The crew froze. Drew stared, stunned, face pale, mouth parted. Meghan hadn't just crossed a line. She'd obliterated it. Slowly, Drew rose from her chair. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not. Meghan, you need to stop. Right now. You're hurting people with your words, including yourself. This anger you're carrying is destroying you from the inside, and I honestly feel... Don't you dare pity me! Meghan screamed, her voice booming through the studio. I don't need sympathy from someone who has never had to fight for respect. You've never faced what I face. You have no idea what it's like to be me. Drew inhaled deeply, grounding herself. When she spoke, her voice was softer, but iron-willed. You're right. I don't know your life, but I do know pain. I know trauma. I know what it's like to break in public and try to put yourself back together again. What I don't understand is why you're choosing to deal with your pain by tearing down anyone who tries to care about you. Meghan's face twisted with rage. She snatched her purse like a shield. I don't have to listen to this. I will not be lectured by someone who thinks a few childhood scars make her an expert on suffering. Nobody is lecturing you, Drew replied gently. I've only tried to talk with you. You're the one determined to make this a war. Meghan began backing toward the edge of the set, voice escalating into hysteria. You want to know what I care about? I care about not being dismissed, not being minimized, not being turned into a tabloid circus for your audience. I deserve respect for who I am and the position I hold. Her entitlement hung thick in the air. Drew suddenly understood. This wasn't about the interview anymore. This was a woman who genuinely believed the world owed her something. Can? Drew said softly. Respect isn't automatic. It's earned by how we treat people, and, right now, you're making it very hard for anyone in this room to respect you. That landed like a blade. Meghan's eyes filled with furious tears. Her voice dropped to a strangled whisper, more terrifying than her screams had been. How dare you? Do you know who I am? Do you know what I've sacrificed? How dare you speak to me that way? Drew looked at her with heartbreaking clarity. I know who you were, Meghan. And I'm starting to see who you've become. And it breaks my heart. The blood drained from Meghan's face. Her hands shook violently. The studio fell into a suffocating silence. Just the hum of the lights and the distant whir of cameras. I'm done, Meghan whispered. I'm done with this circus. Her words hung in the air like a final verdict. But she didn't leave. She just stood there, locked in place, chest heaving, fury vibrating off her in waves. Drew, in one last act of grace, stepped toward her and extended her hand. Meghan, please, let's just take a breath. We can start over. We can talk about anything you want. Meghan's head snapped up. Her eyes were wild, royal composure gone, humanity gone. All that remained was raw, untethered rage. Start. Over? She hissed, half laughing, half screaming. You think you can humiliate me on national television and then hit reset? You think I'm one of your broken Hollywood friends who just needs a hug and a quote for your next inspirational monologue? Drew's hand slowly fell to her side. It was over. Reason could no longer reach whatever storm Meghan was drowning in. I never tried to humiliate you, Drew said quietly. Everything that's happened here has been your choice. All I've done is offer kindness, Meghan threw her head back, and released a sound that didn't seem human. Half sob, half scream, half laughter. A sound that made the entire room recoil. The audience recoiled as though they'd been struck across the face. A few people in the front row actually stood up, whispering in panic as they edged toward the exits. Kindness? Respect? Meghan shrieked, voice cracking under its own fury. You call this respect? Dragging me onto your pathetic little show and expecting me to perform like some trained animal? Do you have any earthly idea who I am? I am the Duchess of Sussex. I am married to a prince. I have had tea with the Queen of England. Drew felt something inside her finally, irreversibly break. 20 minutes of personal insults, unhinged accusations, and unfiltered contempt had shredded the room. Her staff looked traumatized. Audience members were scared. Her show, her home, was being torn apart by someone who seemed to have lost all connection to sanity. Meghan, Drew said, her voice slicing clean through the chaos. I don't care if you're married to a prince or the Pope. The way you're acting right now is completely unacceptable. And I am done letting you abuse me, my team, or my audience. The words hit Meghan like a slap. She stared at Drew, her mouth opening and closing, no sound emerging, until it finally did, low and venomous. You just made the biggest mistake of your career, Drew Barrymore. The menace in her voice sent a chill through the studio. Do you have any idea what I can do to you? Do you know the kind of connections I have? I can end you with a single phone call. I can make sure you never work in this industry again. The threat was so bizarre, so wildly overblown, that several audience members gave a stunned, nervous laugh. Drew looked at Meghan, not with fear, but with something colder, clearer, final. Are you threatening me, Meghan? Drew asked, calm as stone. On live television? In front of hundreds of witnesses? Because if you are, then this conversation is over. Meghan snapped. Her face flushed purple. Her finger shot out, trembling with rage. You have no idea what you've done. I came here to give your tiny show credibility, and this is how you repay me. By trying to make me look crazy? Meghan, Drew replied, the precision of her voice like a scalpel. I didn't make you look like anything. You did that all by yourself. That was the breaking point. Meghan lunged, with a guttural scream. She swung her purse like a weapon, charging toward Drew. The audience shrieked. Security exploded onto the set from every corner. Camera operators dove, cables went flying, and the entire studio plunged into chaos. You! Meghan howled as two guards seized her arms. You absolute! How dare you! I am royalty. I am royalty! Drew did not move. She stood in the eye of the storm. Heartbreak in her eyes, resolve in her spine, as the woman she had genuinely tried to help was dragged backward, sobbing and thrashing. Meghan's tears weren't grief. They were rage, hot, blinding rage. Get your hands off me, she screeched, struggling violently. Do you know who I am? I will have you all fired. I will sue this network. I will destroy her. I will destroy everyone. Here. Phones were out now. Dozens of them. The audience sat frozen, horrified, recording history's most surreal royal meltdown. A duchess? A duchess? Being hauled off a daytime talk show, like a belligerent nightclub patron. At last, Drew moved. She walked to her chair, sat with grace, smoothed her skirt, and lifted her eyes to the camera. When she spoke, her voice was steady, warm, and human, even as her heart was clearly breaking. Ladies and gentlemen, Drew began softly, I want to apologize to our studio audience and to our viewers at home for what you just witnessed. That is not the kind of conversation we ever intend to have on this show, and it is certainly not how we treat our guests, no matter how they choose to treat us. From somewhere off stage, Meghan's voice still echoed through the corridors. This isn't over, you'll hear from my lawyers. I will destroy this show. I will destroy all of you. Drew paused, letting the last shriek fade into silence before continuing. I want our viewers to know that we invited Meghan here Today because we truly admired her work and wanted to give her a platform to speak about the causes she cares about. What happened instead was deeply unfortunate. For everyone involved, but especially for her. I sincerely hope she gets the help she clearly needs. A door slammed backstage. A sharp, final punctuation. Drew turned back to her trembling audience and, somehow, offered that warm, gentle smile the world loved her for. Well, she exhaled, a fragile laugh breaking the tension. I think we can all agree that was not how I planned to spend my Tuesday morning. Light laughter rippled. Nervous, but grateful. When we return after the break, we'll be joined by Chef Marcus Samuelson to talk about his new cookbook and his incredible work feeding families in need. I think we could all use a little positivity after what we just experienced. The show cut to commercial. Drew remained seated, breathing deeply as producers rushed toward her. She waved them off with a tired smile. She had survived one of the most vicious meltdowns in daytime television history, and she had done it with dignity, grace, and unshakable strength. The Duchess of Sussex had entered that studio expecting to be treated like royalty. Instead, she had exposed something far less impressive. And in trying to destroy Drew Barrymore, she had only succeeded in destroying herself.